Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? Mike, we appreciate it as always. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
As always, appreciate you being flexible with us here to make it work today.
No, thank you for being flexible.
I'm happy to do it. Speaking of being flexible, Saints had to be flexible at their quarterback position. Okay, the decision to start Spencer Rattler. How do we feel?
I mean, it's the right move to get everyone excited about this game, I think. And I think it's the right move for this team. What struck me is if there were any other factors for deciding who deserves to be backup quarterback, if there's a pecking order, if there's seniority, I don't know if any of those go into deciding who the number 2 quarterback is. This decision is about a team that needs to win a game. And they've got a week to game plan for it, and they're on a 30-game losing streak. And they got to find a way to win one of these 2 games against Tampa Bay or Denver at home. Otherwise, this season might already be lost. So, nothing else matters except for who gives them the best chance to win. And that's why they're picking Spencer Rattler.
So why didn't they go to Rattler when Carr got injured against Kansas City?
Well, I mean, at that point, obviously, he wasn't even eligible to come into the game. I mean, they had chosen Haener to be the number 2. And, I mean, it's tough to say exactly what the difference is in those 2 situations. Heard someone suggest, Haener could step in and complete the game plan that was already in place for Carr. Rattler's a guy you game plan around. I don't know that they're that different, that makes perfect sense. That was definitely true in the previous days of like when Taysom wasn't the backup on a game day. But, maybe some of it, I don't know. I mean, there's obviously the conspiracy theories about not wanting Rattler, the fans all to be demanding Rattler come in the game at any moment. Look, there are a million factors. I do think it was close enough between the 2 that I would not have been surprised by either decision at the beginning of the year who they would go with as the number 2. I was not surprised that they went with Haener. It didn't feel egregious or acropropherical, if that's the right word.
Oh, man, we're going to add that to Mad Libs next time.
But this one does not surprise me either because, they need some juice and they need a guy who can make some plays behind an offense that's kind of broken right now. And I don't think this will be too big for Rattler either.
Okay, why does you got to see both of these quarterbacks in training camp out in California, some in preseason games. Why does Rattler give the Saints the best opportunity to win this weekend?
I mean, I think it's maybe too generic to say higher ceiling, more upside, those kind of buzzwords, but I think that's true of Rattler. I think there's some big playability. I think there's some mobility. I think there's a big arm. This isn't a caretaker situation. This is a game where you have to outscore the other team. You're going to be under duress. You're going to have to make plays. And there's also, the long-term upside of this is the rookie quarterback you invested in. This coaching staff chose him. They want to see him. He was exciting people with everything he did this summer in training camp, and now here's a chance where, hey, we're going to put 2 game plans, maybe more than 2 game plans together in a row. We're going to play to try to win some games, and let's see what we have in Spencer Rattler.
It'll certainly help if he's got a full complement of weapons and a healthy-ish offensive line.
That ish is carrying a lot of weight there.
Okay.
I think it's going to look a lot like last time. If Cesar Ruiz isn't back, Eric McCoy isn't back. Lucas Patrick might not be back. Healthy-ish? No. Terrible. Awful.
Okay.
As bad as it's been.
I want to dig into this a little more because they made the decision to start Lucas Patrick at center and Nick Saldiveri at left guard. Mid-game against the Chiefs, they were like, hey, Saldiveri, you stink. Get out of here. And they put Connor McGovern in at center and kicked Patrick over. Well, now Lucas Patrick hasn't practiced this week with a chest injury, which to the best of my knowledge, you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, is a new injury. So what in the world do they do on the offensive line?
You get Connor McGovern and Nick Saldiveri and Landon Young at right guard and Trevor Penning at right tackle and Tyler Foggin at left tackle.
Is that the worst offensive line you've ever seen?
Patrick.
Is that the worst offensive line you've ever seen with the Saints in all your years covering them?
It has to be. Yeah, with the Saints, yeah. There's no close second because they always had either a Jari Evans or a Teron Armstead or a Ryan Ramczyk or Carl Nix or multiple. It's never been anything like this. Nothing. No, never.
What about that Monday night game against Miami when when they started Ian Book?
Okay.
I don't remember who were the offensive linemen that day. I'm reaching here.
But they were missing 22 guys or something that night, so it couldn't have been good. You're right. I do remember when they went to Pittsburgh a couple of years ago. Was that Sean Payton's last year? That was Dennis Allen's first year when they hit rock bottom with some offensive line injuries and they went to Pittsburgh and they couldn't even run the ball for a yard. That was the previous low, I think. But it's a new low now. The only thing they have now is they have an offensive coordinator who's proven brilliant at covering up for that here and there. But he's shown his limitations too. There's some magic tricks you can't pull off when you're facing Chris Jones or Jalen Carter or 3rd and 9 or down by 10 or, as was the case on Monday night, all of the above.
Mike Triplett's with us, neworleans.football. He's on Twitter at Mike Triplett. Of course, our conversation is brought to you by Benny's Car Wash. And that wasn't a gotcha, Mike. It was more illustrating, like, you have to go to a global pandemic when you were missing 21 starters and your coaching staff to find a line that was comparable to how bad this one is. What about the complementary pieces? I know Alvin Kamara was back at practice on Thursday, which is good news. What about the rest of the offensive weapons that could complement Spencer Rattler?
Rashid Shaheed, this should add some comforts that he expects to play and that he's just dealing with something minor. So everyone should be there. I don't know that except Taysom Hill. So Alvin, Olave, Shaheed. Everyone hasn't been enough, though. I mean, when teams have taken away Olave and haven't given him time to throw the deep ball to Shaheed, they don't have a ton of other answers. I mean, I like the 2 touchdowns they threw into Foster Moreau this year. I'd like to see more of that. Somebody has to be open when these other guys are being covered. But, I mean, it all starts with sort of the basic tenets of generic football, but it's never been more true to the extremes than the Saints this year. I mean, they've got to be able to run the ball. They've got to let it be 3rd and 4. They've got to let play action work. I mean, in the 2 games this year where they haven't been able to run the ball, and it's been 2nd and long and 3rd and long, the magic has been erased. And so that's where it starts, is can they run the ball at all or pretend to run or threaten to run so that it's not just tee off on the rookie.
Yeah. It might have to be one of those games.
And look, I will say this. They're not facing the Chiefs this time.
Yeah.
They're not in Arrowhead against the Chiefs. They're at home in the Superdome against the team that just let Kirk Cousins throw for 500 yards last week. So it could get better.
That's kind of where I was transitioning to next. Like, this might have to be one of those games like the Saints won in Tampa a few years ago when it was 9-0. Like, the defense could make it much easier on the offense.
Well, no, I don't think you can stop Tampa Bay from scoring. I think that's a good offense over there. I think Baker Mayfield, I've got to admit, I thought maybe there was a fluky nature to last year, and he's doubling down on it this year. They obviously have good receivers. They're going to score points. I don't think you can win this one 9-0 or 16-13. I think you've got to find a way to score some points.
What is the path for New Orleans if they're going to – and I agree with you, Mike. Like, these next 2 weeks, if you lose these next 2 and you're 2-5, I don't see a path to realistically climb out of a 2-5 hole. You got to get one of these. So if it's this weekend, what's the path?
The path to winning this weekend?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's got to be don't do anything. Don't stack the deck against yourself anymore. I mean, it's funny, Joe Woods just said something today, and sometimes these things don't ring true when you're like, that was not a close game. He listed all the things they did wrong. We missed these tackles, we made these errors, we did this, it's not which is uncharacteristic for us. We gave this up, and after 3 quarters, it was 16-13. And I'm like, it is true. You can you can be the worst team and the other team can be better, and you can fight hard and keep games close. But then what you can't do is you can't give up a 65-yard run to Saquon Barkley and a 61-yard catch to Dallas Goedert. You can't get a 50-yard pass interference penalty and a 50-yard pass to Juju Smith-Schuster, and you can't give up a 30-yard pass interference penalty and have Rashid Shaheed drop a punt in the end zone. Like they've got to win. They've got to win the big game-changing play advantage, and in each of their 3 losses, they lost those big time.
Got to find a way to scratch one out, see if they can do it this weekend. You can read about it over at neworleans.football. He's Mike Triplett on Twitter at Mike Triplett. Been good enough to join us here Thursdays for years now. And our chats each week are brought to you by Benny's Car Wash, bennyscarwash.com. Find out about all the Benny's memberships. That's the best, like $15 or $16 a month you'll spend on unlimited car washes, bennyscarwash.com. Mike, we appreciate it as always, man. Have a great rest of your week.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.